And good evening, wherever you may be. This is Kurt Berglund once again with Game 3 of the Pine Tar Legends World Series, featuring the stars of the American League versus the stars of the National League, using the game system of Pine Tar Baseball. Pine Tar Baseball instruction booklet looks like this, and the website is ttlbaseballgame.com. ttlbaseballgame.com. Tonight, Game 3 of the World Series between the two leagues. The National League has taken both of the first two games of the series. The first one, a 5-0 whitewash by Pedro Martinez of the American League, shutting down greats from the American League such as Babe Ruth, Lou Gehrig, and Joe DiMaggio. Excuse me. Game 2 was an 11-inning classic that looked like, going to the 9th inning, that the National League was going to be able to wrap things up. Trevor Hoffman was on the mound for what would have been a 3-2 save, but he gave up a leadoff walk to Jimmy Fox, a pinch hit single by Babe Ruth that sent pinch runner Derek Jeter to third base, a sacrifice fly by offensive star George Brett that tied the game at 3 off of Hoffman, and then came two amazing pinch hitters off the American League bench. Ted Williams batting for Charlie Gehringer, a singled, sending Ruth all the way to third base. Sending Eddie Collins, who ran for Ruth, all the way to third base. And then Lou Gehrig grounded out with the infield in, which held the runners. And finally, Rickey Henderson struck out with a chance to walk off the game, but it went to extra innings with the score tied at 3. Excuse me. The National League ended up winning in the 11th inning off of a pair of singles by pinch hitter Hank Aaron, pinch hitter Willie Stargell. I'm sorry, that's not true. By catcher Mike Piazza, and a sacrifice fly by Tony Gwynn 1 out later that gave the National League a 4-3 victory that Hoyt Wilhelm made stand up in the bottom of the 11th for the victory for the National League. The rules for the series are a little bit complex, not too bad. No starting pitcher may start more than twice. This is a best-of-9 series. And no position player may start more than 5 times. So there are some limits as to player usage, and I believe I said that there are 35-man rosters for the series, 20 position players and 15 pitchers. So we're going to get started. The offensive star for the American League so far is George Brett. He will be leading off. The National League is at home, excuse me, for all of the odd-numbered games in the series. So the batting order for the American League will be George Brett leading off at first base, Carl Yastrzemski batting second in left field, Babe Ruth batting third in right field, Yogi Berra getting his first start behind the plate, batting fourth, Reggie Jackson playing center field tonight, batting fifth, Wade Boggs batting sixth at third base, Derek Jeter batting seventh, playing shortstop, and Eddie Collins back at second base, batting eighth. The pitcher for the American League tonight, no stranger in real life to big money games, is Randy Johnson. Randy Johnson, of course, won big games in '95, not only to win the tiebreaker game against the Angels for Seattle, but then winning key games both against New York and Cleveland in the Mariners' failed attempt to reach the World Series. His opponent tonight will be the National League star, Greg Maddux. The National League starting lineup is as follows, in batting order is as follows. Willie Mays will lead off in center field. Rogers Hornsby will bat second at second base. Hank Aaron will bat third in left field. Mike Schmidt will bat fourth and play third base. Ernie Banks gets his first start of the series. He will bat fifth and play shortstop. Johnny Bench, back behind the plate, will bat sixth and do the catching. Roberto Clemente will bat seventh and play right field. And Ozzie Smith, with his second straight start, bats eighth and plays shortstop. Greg Maddux does the pitching and bats ninth. The American League is really, it's a 9-game series, true, but the American League is facing a very uphill battle if they lose this game, going down 3-0. So we'll see what happens. George Brett stepping in against Greg Maddux to get things started. Here we go. The pitch to Brett is a ball outside, and Maddux walks the leadoff batter, George Brett. Carl Yastrzemski hits second. Nobody out. Brett is on base. The pitch to Yaz. He hit him. Wow. Maddux hits Yastrzemski. Runners on first and second. Nobody out. The American League has something going here in the first inning. Babe Ruth stepping in to bat against Greg Maddux. An exciting face-off, if there ever was one. And Ruth comes through. He drills one to the right center field gap. Clemente and Mays are split. Babe is on with a double. That's going to score Brett. And they're going to hold Yaz with nobody out at third base. Second and third with none out. The American League is leading 1-0. Yogi Berra, the infield, is back. Yogi Berra. Fly ball, center field, medium deep. Willie Mays is under it. Yaz is going to tag. He will score the second run of the game. And look at the aggressiveness of the American League already at this early juncture of the game. 1 out. Babe Ruth on second base and 2 runs in for the American League. The pitch to Reggie. And there it goes. Way back, and gone. Reggie's not in the lineup for his glove. So he just went deep off Maddux. Brings home Babe Ruth. And the American League now has a 4-0 lead right off the bat here in this one. Wade Boggs steps in against Maddux and uncharacteristically strikes out. And that's 2 down in the first. And Derek Jeter with 2 outs, nobody on. Against Maddux, Jeter singles. Single for Jeter. He's on. Eddie Collins with 2 outs, 1 man on base. The pitch to Eddie is a ball 2. Ball 2 to Collins. 2 balls, no strikes. Can Maddux come back and get him? That is a balk by Greg Maddux. That sends Jeter to second. Collins is still at bat. They're going to put him on to get to Randy Johnson. Runners on first and second for the big unit at the plate against Greg Maddux. The big unit strikes out against Maddux, and that's it as the American League bats around in the first inning, but they score 4 and take a commanding, one would think, 4-0 lead in this one. Willie Mays leads off against Randy Johnson for the National League. He draws a walk. Mays is on first, just as Brett walked to lead off the first inning for the American League. Hornsby, Rogers Hornsby, the second baseman, strikes out, comes up with nothing against Johnson's heat. Hank Aaron hits one hard. And hits one hard at shortstop. That's Jeter. Jeter gloves it to Collins for one, and back to George Brett to retire the side. Willie Mays draws a leadoff walk, but Hank Aaron hits into a 6-4-3 double play to end the inning, and it's 4-0 after one. The American League is out in front. George Brett leading off against Maddux. And Brett just continues his hot hitting. This one's down the line. He pulls it past the first baseman, Ernie Banks. And Banks can't make the play. It's in the corner. Brett stops at second with a double. And the National League bullpen is going to get started. Carl Hubble is warming up in the bullpen for the National League. And Carl Yastrzemski steps in against Greg Maddux. It's 4-0 American League. Fly ball center field. This will be a can of corn for Willie Mays, and that's one out. Babe Ruth is up against Maddux with Brett in scoring position and only one out. And the Babe just hit one way out of here, and that's a 2-run bomb. And that's a 6-run advantage now for the American League, and they have apparently brought their hitting shoes this evening. That's going to do it for Maddux, who struggles to really find any kind of a groove at all. King Carl Hubble will be the relief pitcher in the top of the second. He'll bat ninth and try and put the fire out here. Facing, first off, as Hubble is a lefty, facing Yogi Berra, left-handed batting, Hall of Fame catcher, maybe the best of all time. Berra draws a walk. Wow. 1 on, 1 out, 2 runs in. It's 6-0 American League. Here's Reggie Jackson against Hubble. And Reggie strikes out for 2 outs in the inning. And Wade Boggs, last chance for the American League in the second. And Boggs flies to left, and that's going to be Aaron in a few steps, but he takes it for out number 3. The American League now leads by a score of 6-0. And the National League needs to get it going quickly as I drop my dice. Okay, Mike Schmidt against the big unit, leading off here in the bottom of the second. Schmidt's the cleanup hitter tonight for the National League, and he draws a walk. Wow, controlled trouble for everybody tonight. Maybe some jitters as Banks steps in against Johnson. Banks sends one in the air to left, and that's going to be Yaz. 1 down. 1 down with 1 on for Johnny Bench. And a shot for Bench. It's foul. Foul ball for Bench down the line. 2 strikes on JB. And here comes Hubble. Screwball, and Bench strikes out. I'm sorry, Johnson strikes out Bench. And that is 2 down. Schmidt on first, 2 outs, and Clemente at the plate. The pitch to Roberto. He strikes out, and that retires the side in the second for the National League. 6-0, top of the third. Here we go with the American League facing Hubble, still in the game. The pitch to Jeter. And Jeter strikes out. 1 down in the third. 6-0 American League. Eddie Collins with 1 out. Slaps a base hit to left. Aaron's going to bring it, throw it back in, but that is a 1-out hit for Eddie Collins. Randy Johnson steps in, the big unit. He's going to try and lay one down. He does. He gets it down, and that'll be Schmidt over to Banks for the sacrifice, and that moves Collins up to second base. George Brett is up now against Hubble with 2 outs and a runner in scoring position. Brett grounds one to third. That's Schmidt. We're going to have a range check. And that is gobbled up by the slugger Mike Schmidt, who throws to first and gets him. And that's 3 outs for the American League in the top of the third. But they still lead by a score of 6-0. Ozzie Smith leads off for the National League in the bottom of the third. And Ozzie grounds one to Boggs, who scoops it and throws. That's 1 down. Hubble is due, but he's not going to bat. Jackie Robinson will do the pinch hitting for Carl Hubble here in the bottom of the third. Robinson with 1 out against Randy Johnson, who hasn't been perfect, but he's been good enough so far. Fly ball left field, that's Yaz. And Yaz takes it for out number 2. Willie Mays. And Mays, another fly ball, this one to center field, and that's Reggie Jackson, who's got it for out number 3. Gotta wonder when the American League is going to start shifting and getting a defensive lineup in there, up 6-0. But for now, they're sticking with who they got. The new pitcher for the National League is Pete Alexander. Famously described as an alcoholic by many of his contemporaries, but defended by Ty Cobb as an epileptic. So the truth is in there somewhere. Anyway, he will pitch the 4th inning for the National League, at least. And Carl Yastrzemski, batting second for the American League, will lead off against Alexander. The pitch to Alexander is... wow. Yaz is hit again. Yaz leaned into that one and takes his base. There's nobody out, and the American League has something going again. Ruth is at the plate. The pitch from Alexander to Ruth is a strikeout. The Babe fans against Alexander. Shades of the 1926 World Series. Yogi Berra hits a fly ball to center field, and that's going to be Mays for 2 outs. And Reggie Jackson, who hit a 2-run bomb in the first, struck out in the second, and right now strikes out again off of Pete Alexander's offerings. So it's an initial hit by pitch, but then 1, 2, 3, and the American League is out in the 4th. Rogers Hornsby against Randy Johnson in the bottom of the 4th. And Hornsby just drew a walk to get it started. That's the third leadoff walk that the big unit has allowed so far in this game, and he has not paid for it yet. National League has not had any hits yet. That's an error check. And we'll see who's got to make this play. Third baseman Wade Boggs, who takes the line out off of Hank Aaron's bat, and that's 1 out. Nice play by Boggs. Schmidt, down 6 runs, the National League. Strikes out. The big unit blows it by him. 1 on, 2 outs for shortstop first baseman Ernie Banks. And the pitch is a high heat, and Banks can't catch up to it. That's it in the 4th. The National League has no runs, no hits, and has left 3. All 3 walked by Randy Johnson. Here comes Alexander facing Boggs. And Boggs draws a walk to lead off the 5th inning. Derek Jeter. They're up 6-0, although with these lineups, 6 can evaporate in a hurry. Fly ball left field, that's Aaron again. 1 down. Eddie Collins, the second baseman for the American League, with Boggs on first and 1 man out. Hits 1 to center, and Mays makes a nice running catch for 2 outs. And with 2 outs and 1 on, we're going to have Randy Johnson. And they're going to take out Alexander at this moment. And bring in Warren Spahn. And we're going to see a double switch. Spahn will bat in Banks' spot, the 5th spot. And he's going to face Randy Johnson. We're going to have a new first baseman for the National League. The new first baseman is going to be Honus Wagner. And he, of course, played just about every position in his day. He's going to be in there to try and light a fire, spark something for the National League. Try and get the offense going. He will bat last and play first base. Maybe future defensive substitutions coming as well. At any rate, it's Spahn against Johnson. Randy Johnson is a right-handed batter. Spahn is, of course, a lefty pitcher. And he strikes out Johnson to end the 5th for the American League. So we're looking right now, as we go to the bottom of the 5th, at a still 6-run lead for the American League. They're ahead 6-0. And Randy Johnson is throwing a gem. It's not perfect, but he's walked a few, but he's shutting out the National League at a point when the National League, when the American League really needed a good performance, he's giving them one. There's a ground ball to Eddie Collins off the bat of Johnny Bench, and that's 1 down. Roberto Clemente is up, and Clemente strikes out. That's 2 down. And Ozzie Smith with 2 outs in the 5th. Ozzie draws a walk with 2 outs. Ozzie's on, and Wagner is due. They're down 6. Kind of cuts off the running game. Wagner swings and slaps a base hit. Ozzie's going to stop at second. We got runners at first and second, and that's the first hit of the game for the National League. 2 outs in the 5th. Willie Mays, a long one here, cuts the lead in half. This won't be a long one. It's a strikeout as Johnson again goes upstairs with the heat, and the National League batters can't lay off. Johnson now has 6 strikeouts through 5 innings, and Spahn is on the hill again to face the American League in the top of the 6th. The pitch to George Brett, and he draws another walk. Brett's on base. Yastrzemski facing the left-hander. Spahn excuse me, hits a fly ball to left field, and Hank Aaron makes a nice running catch. Brett retreats to first base, and there's 1 out. Babe Ruth against the lefty Spahn. The Babe hits one in the left center field gap. Babe goes the other way. This one splits Mays and Aaron. That's going to go all the way to the wall. Brett is around third. He is going to be waved. And the throw is coming in on a relay. Mays to Ozzie to the plate is not in time. Brett scores. It's 7-0, and the Babe has 3 RBIs on the day. Yogi Berra with 1 out and a man in scoring position. It's 7-0, American League. The pitch to Berra. Struck him out. That's a strikeout for Berra. 2 outs. Spahn trying to limit the damage. Reggie Jackson in the 6th. We got an error check. We have an error check. It is second baseman Rogers Hornsby. And Rogers Hornsby just booted it and lets it get by him. And that's going to score Babe Ruth all the way from second base. Reggie's on first on the error, and it's 2 runs in. It's 8-0 American League. Wade Boggs trying to continue the hit parade. He just did. It's a single to left. Boggs goes the other way. Reggie stops at second. There's 2 outs and 2 on. It's 8-0 American League. The National League bullpen is firing up again. Bruce Sutter, warming up. Derek Jeter. Fly ball left field. Hank Aaron makes another fine play, but 2 runs in for the American League. We go to the bottom of the 6th. And it's a snowman for the American League as they lead 8-0 over their National League counterparts. Rogers Hornsby. Hornsby rips a Johnson offering into the gap. This one's between Yaz and Reggie, and Hornsby stops at second with a double. Could be the National League's waking up. The pitch to Hank Aaron is a single. Single up the middle. Hornsby's going to stop at third because they're down 8 runs. First and third for Schmidt. The American League is not feeling like they can mess around too much here. And so Goose Gossage is going to warm up in the pen. Mike Schmidt with the infield back. Fly ball, center field. This one's to Reggie. With Hornsby on third, he's Gonna try it. He's in with a sac fly off of the bat of Mike Schmidt. It's 8-1. And now Spahn is due, but he will not bat. And we're going to have a pinch hitter with Hank Aaron on first base and one man out in the 6th. Mike Piazza, who's in pretty much to do what you think he's in to do, here in the 6th, batting for Spahn, looking to put a jolt into one. Johnson pitches to Piazza. There's a hit. There's one down the line. He pulled him. He pulls a curveball, and that's going to rattle around in the corner. Yaz is going to dig it out and get it back in. Aaron will hold at third. They're second and third with one out. Bench. The pitch to Johnny Bench is a strikeout. That's 2 outs. Second and third, 1 run in. Can Clemente bring home a couple of runs for the National League? The pitch. He swings and misses. Clemente has the hat trick. It's 8-1, and the National League can say they got on the board, but that's all they got going for them. Bench will come out. Piazza will do the catching in the top of the 7th. The new pitcher for the National League will be Bruce Sutter. Sutter will bat 6th in Bench's spot in the lineup. And Eddie Collins will lead off the 7th inning against the all-time closer, Bruce Sutter. The pitch to Collins. Ground ball first. That's gloved by Honus Wagner, and there's one out. Randy Johnson, still going strong for the American League. Johnson strikes out. That's 2 down. And George Brett against Sutter. And we've got a range check. The range check is a shot at third. That's Schmidt, and Schmidt's one of the best. He gloves it and makes the play over to Wagner, and the sides are tired for the American League in the 7th. Ozzie Smith leads off for the National League in the 7th against Randy Johnson. He's walked and grounded to third in 2 at-bats. That's a range check. Ground ball to third. That's Brett. No, I'm sorry. That's Boggs. Boggs makes the play for the first out in the bottom of the 7th. Wagner against Johnson. He's singled in his only at-bat in the 5th. And Wagner draws a walk. They're down 8-1. He's not going anywhere. Willie Mays. And Mays hits a shot to first. That's gloved by Brett. Brett goes to second. That's Jeter. He steps on the bag, and they'll settle for 1 out. So there's 2 outs for the National League right now with a man on first base. That's Willie Mays. Johnson seems to be back in control of the game. And I spoke too soon. The base hit for Hornsby. No, that's a foul ball for Hornsby. Foul down the line. We thought we had extra bases, but we don't. The next pitch to Rogers Hornsby is some more high heat, and that's a strikeout to end the 7th inning. Johnson now has 2, 4, 6, 8, 9, 10 strikeouts on the game for the American League. He has delivered. Carl Yastrzemski against Bruce Sutter. Sutter gives up a base hit to Yastrzemski. Babe Ruth. That's going to do it for Sutter. And it's going to be Billy Wagner in to face the Babe. Billy Wagner in the top of the 8th. This is his first appearance in the series. Wagner will bat 6th in Sutter's spot and face Babe Ruth. Billy Wagner's heat against Babe Ruth. Ruth is a triple from the cycle. He's had 3 RBIs today. The pitch to the Babe is a shot at Schmidt. Schmidt's going to go to second for 1, and that's all they're going to get. Hornsby doesn't even try to turn it, and there's 1 down. Yogi Berra gets to face Wagner's heat right now, and that is another shot to Schmidt. Schmidt goes to Hornsby, and Hornsby again does not turn it. Reggie Jackson, 1 for 4 with a 2-run bomb in the first to get the American League off to such a good start. 1 out, 2 outs, 1 on. Yogi's on first. The pitch to Reggie, and that one is a fly ball to center. And Willie Mays is going to wait for it to come down. It might bring rain, but it'll settle in his glove for out number 3. And that's it for the American League in the top of the 8th. We're going to get 1 defensive change in the top of the 8th, and that is that, or in the bottom of the 8th, and that is that Tris Speaker will make his first appearance in the series as a defensive replacement for Reggie Jackson in center field. But the gamble to put Reggie in center paid off with a 2-run home run in the first inning. Hank Aaron against Randy Johnson. Johnson looking to rack up some strikeouts. And Hank hits a comebacker to RJ, and that is 1 down in the 8th. Mike Schmidt. The pitch to Schmidt is a fly ball to center, and that's Speaker. Speaker's got it. That's 2 down, and Piazza in the bottom of the 8th, looking to come through with another fly ball to center. This one's not going to do anything either. And it's going to be Speaker's ball to catch. He does, and that's 3 outs. We go to the 9th. With an amazing 8-1 lead for the American League over the National League. And I have got to say that this is the American League slugging that I expected before the series started. Definitely expected to see some hitting. John Franco is going to pitch the 9th for the National League, and he will bat 6th. Looking to get some work in at this point. Johnson's still going strong, although there is double-barreled action in the American League bullpen, and that is Eddie Plank and Goose Gossage. Goose Gossage up again for the American League. Wade Boggs against Franco leads off the top of the 9th. The pitch to Boggs is a hit by pitch. That's another one for the American League, and Boggs takes his base. Jeter drills one. And it's foul. A foul ball, boy, just missed. Extra bases for Jeter. And here comes the next pitch to Jeter. Ball 2. 2 balls, 1 strike to Jeter. The pitch. We're going to have another range check. The fly ball is to left field. Can Aaron get there? He does. And it's 1 out in the 9th. Eddie Collins against the lefty John Franco. Collins. Fly ball center field. That's Willie Mays. That's 2 outs. And we're going to see Randy Johnson. They're going to let him try and go the distance for a complete game. The pitch to Johnson. He strikes out, but that's not what he's in there for. The American League is out in the 9th. And we go to the bottom of the 9th. We'll see a pinch hitter for Franco. And then Clemente. And then maybe, maybe Ozzie Smith. We'll see how that goes. Andre Dawson going to make his first appearance in the series with a pinch hit appearance here in the bottom of the 9th. Dawson, Clemente, and Ozzie are scheduled. Here comes Dawson. The pitch. He strikes out against the big unit. 6, 7, 8, 9. Gotta count again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 10, 11 strikeouts now for Johnson. Clemente has 3 strikeouts on the day. He's going for the golden sombrero. And Johnson strikes out Clemente for his 12th strikeout. And Clemente gets the golden sombrero. 4, count them, 4 strikeouts. And Ozzie Smith, last gasp for the National League. Ozzie with a single. Ozzie singles up the middle. Honus Wagner with 2 outs. 1 on. Johnson trying to finish. The pitch. And Johnson is a balk. And he advances Ozzie to second. That's going to do it. They're not taking any chances. It's going to be Gossage coming on with 2 outs in the 9th to face Wagner. There's not a save situation, but the American League needs this game. The pitch to Honus. Struck him out. That's the ball game. Gossage gets a little bit of work, and the American League, more importantly, gets an 8-0 victory. Let's look at the totals. For the American League, 8 runs on 9 hits, and they committed no errors. For the National League, 1 run on 5 hits, and they committed 1 error. The winning pitcher for the American League was Randy Johnson. He is now 1-0 in the series. The losing pitcher is Greg Maddux, who, it seems like about 5 hours ago, started this game for the National League. There is no save in this game, but the hitting stars, clearly Babe Ruth for the American League was 3 for 5 with 2 doubles, a home run, 3 RBIs, 3 runs scored. Reggie Jackson hit a big first-inning home run. He went 1 for 5. And really, the star of the game, other than that, for the American League is Randy Johnson. Randy Johnson gave up 5 hits, 1 run. It was earned. His blemish, I guess, on his record is that he walked 5 batters. but he struck out 12, and he allowed no homers. Goose Gossage came in for kind of a ceremonial wipe-up of a little bit of a mess that a tiring Randy Johnson got the American League into in the 9th inning. Most importantly at this point, the American League has drawn to within 1 game. They trail in the series 2-1, but they're back and within striking distance of tying this thing up. For Game 4, a number of possibilities exist for who takes the mound. Palmer, Feller, Ryan, and Clemens are all fair game at this point for the American League. And for the National League, we're looking at Seaver or Gibson or Christy Mathewson. Remember, starting pitchers can only start twice in the series, so we're probably not going to see Randy Johnson again until things get a little bit further down the line. Starting with Game 4, we're also going to be paying real close attention to the number of starts the position players are getting. So that's going to be something we're going to need to keep an eye on as well. Remember, no position player in the series can start more than 5 times, and this is a best-of-9 series. Babe Ruth, for example, has used up 2 starts of his 5 that he can use. So it's great that he did what he did, but he's only good for 3 of the next 6 games if it goes the distance. So we'll see how that's all going to play itself out. In the next day or two, we will do game number 4. Please watch for us. Remember, Pine Tar Baseball is ttlbaseballgame.com. ttlbaseballgame.com. That's the game engine that's powering this series. If you like what you see, please hit like and subscribe to my channel. We're going to have a lot more to come, not just Pine Tar Baseball, but others as well. And looking forward to doing a lot more with the channel. So thank you for watching, and we'll see you again soon. So long, everybody.